I'd like to welcome everyone to the August 1st meeting of the Walton County Planning Commission. I'd like to thank everyone for being present tonight, all the board members that are here. For any of you, just for your information, if you're never able to join us, but you would like to watch any of our meetings, you can join those meetings at Walton County Facebook Live. Would love to have you guys do that if you ever have an opportunity. The cases that we hear tonight will be moved to the Board of Commissioners on the 10th of September. So any cases and any action taken tonight will be recommendations that will be sent to the Board of Commissioners on September the 10th. And we will meet next on September the 12th. At this time, I'm going to ask Tim Kemp if he would open us up in prayer, and when he finishes, if you all would please join us for the pledge.
Let us bow. Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening in thanksgiving and praise, thanking you for all that you've done and all that you're about to do. Heavenly Father, lead us, guide us, and direct us, Lord, as we make decisions regarding this great county and this great state and this great country in which we live. We ask you for these blessings. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. At this time, I'm going to call our meeting to order, and I would like to indicate that all members are present with the exception of Wesley Sisk. And before I ask for a motion or any discussion regarding our minutes from our last meeting, Sharna, would you please get up? I think we have a clarification.
We do. We have one correction on page 3, the rezone for the property on Highway 78 and Lachlan Road. One of the ladies that spoke made a comment that the comp plan shows that their area is still rural agriculture and there is conservation on down the road. I mistakenly put suburban, so I'm correcting that. And if y'all approve it, it'll be with that correction.
Okay. So we have a correction that's been made, and with that correction, if you've had an opportunity for everyone to review the minutes, I'll ask if we have approval with the correction. I will take a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the change
I second.
published.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye and raise your right hand. Aye. Thank you. I appreciate that. And we have no old business on our agenda for this evening, so we're going to move right into new business. First up is Z240600009 to rezone 60.19 acres from A1 to R1 OSC for a residential subdivision. The applicant is Reliant Homes, MFT Land Investments, and the property is located at 3254 Double Springs Road. And if the applicant please would step up, state your name, and tell us what your plans are at this location.
My name is Ned Butler, representing Reliant Homes, MFT Land Investments. We're located in Loganville. As Mr. Hinton stated, we are requesting a rezone of this 60 acres into an R1 OSC subdivision. We are proposing 26 lots on this 60 acres. This property is in a suburban character of the future land use map, so that zoning request would fit the character area. I would point out that our 26 lots on 60 acres is a lower lot density than either the two subdivisions to our north, Jennifer Springs or Ashland Falls. When we submitted this request into the planning department, we did get a couple comments or questions back. Mainly it was about site distance. We originally looked at bringing the entrance to this subdivision in at Hickory Grove Church Road. just because it's safer to have that entrance come in across from that property. The problem is coming down that hill and around that curve with the speed limit, the sight distance does not work, and it would be more dangerous to put it there. So we have slid the entrance down to the south, and our engineers have also designed a grading plan where we will grade the just outside the right-of-way back to open up the site distance for this. We've provided that grading plan and site distance plan to both the planning department and the Public Works Director. We've discussed it with the Public Works Director, and he was satisfied with what we had proposed. And of course, when we go to the final construction design, we will do the ground run topo and go through the whole review process with their reviewers and ensure that the proper site distance is being met. The other concern that was raised is if you see that little square that's kind of missing out of the northern middle part of this property, that is a old cemetery. And we understand that as we go to prepare to develop this site or design this site, we'll have to prepare an archaeological study, have somebody come out there and identify if there's any graves on our property, mark those, we'll have them surveyed, and we will design around that. We also know we're required to provide a 4-foot black chain link fence and access to it, an access easement to the cemetery. So all that will be addressed if the zoning is approved and we get into construction design. So I will save the rest of my time for any questions or rebuttal.
Okay. My mic's not wanting to come on, Ned. Does anyone have any questions for Ned? Thank you, sir. Is there any opposition? No opposition? Is anyone here to speak on behalf of the applicant? You gonna keep reserving your rebuttal? Okay. At this time, I'll bring it back to the board for a recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a recommendation. The proposed rezoning of 60.19 acres from A1 to R1 OSC fits with the land use plan. The proposal is in character and keeping with the surrounding current development patterns of the area. Therefore, I would like to make a recommendation for approval of Z24060009 as submitted.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second it.
I have a second. All in favor, say aye and raise your right hand. Aye. All right. Any comments from any of the members? Okay. And as I stated earlier, this will go to the Board of Commissioners on the 10th of next month. All right, moving on. Second on our agenda is application Z24060023 to rezone 34.26 acres from A2 to R1 for a residential subdivision. The applicant is Rosewood Development. The owner is AHC Bentley Bold LLC. Property is located at 3525 Bowl Springs Road. Is the applicant for this here?
Good evening. I'm Chris Rosendahl with Rosewood Development Company, and this is David Caruth. He's the owner of the property. Basically, we're looking to rezone to build single-family homes, 25 lots, and here to answer any questions.
Okay. Is there any questions from any of the board members? So I've got a couple.
Sure.
I assume Tip could not make it tonight.
No,
Okay.
but he did do a site visit, and in his opinion, he sent an email, I believe, to you, to Shauna Parker.
Yes, I've got it.
Probably have it. He thinks that the site distance isn't going to be an issue, but of course, once we get in there and get topos done and get our civil drawings, of course, we'll be more than willing to make any adjustments to meet the requirement.
Great. And Sharna, was the county able to review Tip's findings?
Yes, sir.
And so they're okay with that as well? Okay. Okay. So the two out parcels that are shown, are they part of the totality of the acreage that's being requested? Are they part of the 3426?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but they're not named as lots, so those will be done on an exemption plat?
If we can do it that way, we did it that way so we could go ahead and get those 2 lots under construction before
Right.
the subdivision was finished.
So I guess this is my question. Sharna, hopefully you're listening to my question and see if this makes sense. So we have an application for 34.26 acres for 22 lots. There's 22 that are on the street, but then you have 2 out parcels. If those are part of this, then that would actually make 24 lots.
Correct.
But they're, I mean, and that would be okay, but they're not.
Okay, I just asked if they're part of the 34.26, and he said they are part of the 34.26.
They can be rezoned as a part of it, but they wouldn't be a part of the development.
They're part of the original tract, but yeah, there would be.
Right, but what I'm saying is, if there's 34.26 acres, and they're there, then it's 24 lots.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, for all intents and purposes,
Yeah,
it's just not part of your development. That's what I'm getting at.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So my only concern with this, period, is that site distance, and I know Tip went out and took his readings, but that's for the entrance. These 2 out parcels will have driveways that are dead in a blind curve, and Mr. Caruth, I know you come back and forth up that way, and your guys pull out of your entrance. I live catty corner to your property. Very familiar with it. Getting in and out of Hickory Grove gets worse every day. So my initial concern for the entrance, the site distance, but these driveways, they're going to be pulling out if they're heading towards Monroe, dead blind to anything to their right. Have y'all given any consideration to that? And Sharna, will that have to be considered before permits are given? The driveways, can they put them there without any care at all, or?
Well, there will be, we'll review it, because they'll have to get a driveway permit.
Right.
They're not a part of the development,
Okay.
so they'll be looked at.
So at the time of permitting, someone will assess
Yes,
if these driveways are safe?
correct.
Okay. All right. Thank y'all. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Is there anyone here in opposition to this request? Wait just a minute. Let me, if you have a question, I need you to step up to the microphone, state your name, tell us where you live, and although I know where you live, but tell us where you live and tell us what your concerns are.
Okay, my name is Sheila Denmark, and I own the property catty corner to that at Hickory Grove and Bowl Springs. And it is, and Tim can verify this, we have had several accidents there. I mean, it's quite a bit. So if there's an entrance right near Hickory Grove, I'm in opposition of that. I think it needs to go more toward the curve, and I know that would be inconvenient, and also you can't see around it. But Hickory Grove is, there's a lot of traffic there, and we do have accidents there. My fence does get hit quite often, so I think that that could impede on my property. The other thing that I have is Walker Park. I have children in Walker Park, and it is overcrowded as it is. And and I know the community's growing, and I don't have a problem with that, but I think the county should look at having a middle school out there if we're going to have all these new subdivisions. So I think we need to think about that as well. But my big concern is where that entrance is going to be. And I didn't hear what price range these homes are going to be.
Okay. And I can get that answered for you in the applicant's rebuttal.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition? Go ahead, sir. Step up here and to the mic, state your name, give us your address. Although I know where it's at. All my neighbors showing up.
My name's Johnny McKissick. I live at 3590 Bowl Springs Road. And like she said, there's a bad curve there, and for the entrance to come out on this. But I also would like to know what y'all plan on doing about all the extra traffic on that road with these big trucks and everything that's going up down through there. I mean, it's just overcrowded now, and the road's kind of narrow, especially for the trucks.
Thank you, sir. And I'm in agreement, and unfortunately, we have absolutely nothing to do with the traffic, unfortunately. Anyone else in opposition? All right, whichever. Y'all make it easy on yourself, whichever one wants to get out first.
My name's Ron Smith. I live at 3660 Old Braswell Road, which is the property, actually it's behind this piece of property. There's a piece of farmland between us. My concern was the traffic, but we won't discuss that anymore tonight. What I'd like to discuss is the environmental impact. There are about 3, maybe 4 springs on that piece of property that come up on the neighboring piece, this side, and the flows into that pond. And then, of course, and I'm not sure what the developer wants to do about that pond, but if you could see more, the wetlands go all the way down to the corner of that property and goes down and feeds my neighbor down there. He's got wetlands behind him, which is all kinds of wildlife, raccoons, possums, squirrels, you name it, deer. We've got it back there, living behind us there. So the environmental impact is very, very important to me. Mr. Lee Summers, who couldn't be here tonight, also lives just a little bit downstream from the water that comes out there. He has a pond in his backyard that his kids swim in and play in and fish in. So my concern would be with, what about all the overflow from the concrete, the sidewalks, the housing, the septic tanks that are going to be put in there with all these springs, which I'm very aware of. When I put my driveway in over on both springs, I run into 3 springs, or on Old Braswell. I run into 3 springs, and I end up spending a bunch of money trying to get to my piece of property. And of course, the developer said, well, that's the reason they call this area Bowl Springs. So again, the environmental impact is what concerns me with all that water. What's he going to do with the pond? What's going to happen to that water? You can't cover it up. What's going to flow into that water? How are we going to reserve our natural areas there?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
My name's Mike Howell. I live at 3920 Old Braswell, which is at the very end of Old Braswell. So all this water that Ron was talking about hits me. I've lost my driveway 3 times in 5 years. And it's kind of expensive putting it back, putting the culvert back and back in there. So if we can get something done with the water and environmental impact he was talking about, it would greatly help. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I'm going to, anyone else, any more opposition? Okay, I'm going to ask the applicant to come back up for rebuttal. Also, sir, were you getting up for opposition? Okay. So while you're coming up, I want to make mention of one thing in particular I found for some of the concerns you guys have. My dad's in a very similar situation to you, sir, with water runoff and losing his driveway, and now there's a neighborhood going in behind him as of last month, so I had to attend that meeting up in Gwinnett. So the rules, Sharni, you got your ears open? So the rules are, under the development, that once this development goes in, it cannot shed any greater water off than what is there now. It has to be at the level now or less. That has to be done through engineering. And once they're satisfied, then they'll get permits as needed. But the engineering will take that. And there are 2 retention ponds. You guys have one between lots 7 and 8, and then one in the back left corner as you look at it from Bowl Springs, correct? Right. So the question too, and I did have this, is the existing pond that's there, is that going to be left because it does impede some of these lots, but we all leave that as part of those lots?
I'm going to leave that up to the civil engineer. So when Tip does his drawings and we get topos and get more accurate information for him, whatever he chooses to do and stamp it, I'm going to follow what he suggests.
And I'm sure
If he
from,
says get rid of it, we'll end it. If he says we can keep it, then we'll keep it.
right. my assumption would be from your standpoint is aesthetics and having that, it would be a perk.
It would be,
I got
in my
you.
opinion.
So you would like to see it, if it
Yeah.
works on engineering, you'd like to see it left?
Correct.
Okay.
In regards to that pond, I think that if it does stay, as it's drawn, it's part of the 3 individual lots. I think it might be a better idea to have it under common ownership as far as maintenance goes.
Again, I'm going to leave that up to Tip. If, then whatever we come up with, then that's what we'll do.
So another question, this will have an HOA?
More than likely, yes, sir.
Okay. Let me tell you what my concern is, and you tell me
Okay.
how you want to address it. The lot number 12, that has the retention on the back of it. Right now, under, Sharna, got your ears on? Right now, under our current regulations, that lot owner would be responsible for that retention pond.
Yeah, anything like that, we'd have an HOA, and we would make everyone responsible for it. I don't agree with having the owner of the lot be responsible for the pond when it's everyone's water.
Right.
We would form an HOA, and it would be shared maintenance.
Okay. And so then it would also, the unnumbered lot where the other collection point is, that also would be
Yeah,
fall
any
under
common
HOA?
areas, they're going to have an entrance, they're going to have to maintain that. We would form an HOA and let everybody contribute.
Okay, so this owner on this lot will not be responsible for that retention?
No.
Okay.
No, I think y'all changed that anyway in Walton County. Most developments we've done recently, they're making us form HOAs to make everyone responsible for the ponds. What I've done in the past.
Right. And I'm thinking that if there is no HOA and it's on that lot, they're responsible. Yes. So that's why I'm asking you,
Yeah,
there
would
needs,
be
yeah.
an HOA form.
Okay, so that's all I need you on public record saying there's going to be an HOA, and I'm cool, all right?
I'm not a fan of HOAs personally, but it's going
Well,
to have one for everyone.
in this scenario, I think it protects the consumer because everyone in that neighborhood ultimately benefits from water runoff and collection. But then you get one person responsible. If there's not something to impede that from happening, then it's not fair. I don't
I know
find
the
it.
county's been kind of hung out on a lot of the ponds that were built years ago, so I know that they're not going to approve it without that being done anyway, from what I know.
Very good. Any other questions? Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the applicant as a proponent? Okay. I'm going to bring this back for a
Thank you.
recommendation. Thank y'all. So I'm going to make a motion of approval with one condition, and that condition being that before a land disturbance permit or a development permit is issued on this property, that there will be an assessment made by the county, signed by the county, concerning the site distance of the entry. I know we have the information from the engineer, but I want it signed off by the county department, our DOT, that site distance is good, and if it is, then I'm cool with that. Also, those 2 out parcel lots, before a permit is issued for those 2 lots, that there will also be an assessment as how those intersect that roadway and concerning the blind curve there. So anyway, I'm going to make a motion with those conditions for approval.
I second it.
I've got a second. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any comment from any of the board members? No.
Yeah.
And Sheila, I will mention to you, I meant to cover it while I was talking, that their entry is actually below Hickory Grove going towards the curve, their proposed entry. Obviously, they couldn't put it at the corner because the cellular, not the cellular, but Windstream. Windstream has what am I looking for? A station there. Yeah, so, yeah. Yeah. Yes, it's not. All right, moving on. Next on the agenda for this evening is Land Use 2407-0002 and Z 2407-0003, The land use to change from highway corridor to neighborhood residential to rezone 91.26 acres from A2 to R1 OSC for a residential subdivision. The applicant is Carter Engineering Consultants Incorporated, Glenda Sales, properties located at 138 and 1185 Highway 138 is the applicant for this here. If you would, please step up, sir, state your name, tell us what your plans are for this property.
My name is Paul Mitchell. I'm an attorney at the law firm of Miles Hansford. I represent the applicant tonight. I have a PowerPoint presentation. Can I plug in? I'm so sorry. Or can I hook my laptop into this, or I just, okay. Okay,
We can get that ready for you before you.
that's fine.
I'm sorry.
No, thank you so much.
And they want to put
Okay. The proposal that I'm here for this evening on behalf of, we have the engineer and the home builder. The team is here tonight. Logan, Brian, and Ryan are here with me this evening. And what we're proposing is on 91.26 acres. We are asking for a rezoning from the A2 Rural Estate District to the R1 OSC, the Single Family Residential Open Space Conservation Overlay District. So we are asking for two things tonight. We're asking for an amendment to the character area map, which is necessary in order for us to change the zoning on this property. So the amendment to the character area map that we're asking for is from the highway corridor to the suburban character area. And then the rezoning we're asking for is from A2 Rural Estate, District to R1 OSC. And the proposed use is a subdivision, a residential use with 63 lots. You have an aerial of the property, and you can kind of tell that on the east side of the property there is a stream, and on that north border there is a utility easement. So there are some challenges on this property with topography, with streams, with soil condition, and so the open space conservation zoning really is essential in order to make this a vibrant and viable community. So I have a site plan, and I apologize. It's on the thumb drive and it's on my laptop here, but I'd be happy to share that. But basically, we have preliminary drawings showing the layout for these lots.
And they do have a copy of that.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Okay, so in your materials.
We'll get a copy of that.
Excellent, yes. So we do have a site plan. We have elevations as well. I know there was a question earlier on the last presentation about home values. Everyone is curious about that. We expect these homes to start in the low fives. Beautiful homes. As far as the neighboring zonings, I do want to point out the compatibility of the zoning we're asking for with the neighboring districts. Of course, this is, the property is already surrounded by other zonings that are appropriate for residential development, and as you look at the land use map, we're also very close to being contiguous with the other land uses that we're asking for here. Again, 63 proposed single-family detached homes. The minimum lot size is 0.6 acres, relatively large lots. The minimum square footage of the homes is 2,200 square feet. We're proposing actually more open space than what is required by the code. we're proposing 30.65 acres of open space. That's 15.1 acres of open space that's outside of the buffers, outside of the easements, outside of the flood areas. And so we've exceeded the minimum open space required, which was just over 22 acres. And we've exceeded the minimum open space required outside of buffers as well, which is just over 11 acres. Again, the layout and the request that we're making here accommodates the topography of the site, accommodates the flood zone that's on the east of the site with the river, or with the stream there, accommodates the easement toward, that's at the north of the site. That being said, I wanted to show you a lot of flashy pictures, but you just have my voice instead. But if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And again, I've got my team with Logan, Brian, and Ryan. So we've got both the home builder and the engineering team is here tonight.
Thank you. Is there any questions from the board members? So I have a couple for you. Any, in this price point, any amenities planned?
For this size neighborhood, there aren't currently any amenities in the site plan.
Yeah. Okay.
There are open spaces inside the development itself, which we've shown on the site plan.
Right, okay.
63 homes
63 lots,
of Highway 138.
91.26 acres. It's
On that topography?
1.44 units to the acre,
Wow.
not considering CSO.
We've done the preliminary engineering in order to accommodate that, but that's also part of the reason why we're asking for the open space conservation, so that we can conserve some of these areas around the sides of it, but it is challenging topography.
Right. Any other questions?
Ask Shauna a question. DOT will have to approve
That's correct.
a lot on this.
Yes.
Me personally, because Highway 138 is already a busy corridor, very, very busy.
Absolutely,
Hey.
and our engineer is ready to work with DOT to make sure that the entrance is designed to DOT specifications.
I hope they put a traffic light there, which, that's a lot. I'm just going to have to speak up on this. I might be wrong, but that's a lot of traffic. Multiplied by 2, that's 126. That's not even including if they have children.
And we'll work with the Department of Transportation, of course, through all those issues.
Yeah, but for me, it's a state highway. That's a corridor of connecting communities and cities and whatever. And I've seen when accidents have occurred out there, what happens. Because I just spent an hour, 2 hours from Stockbridge yesterday. That really was an eye-opener for me. I'm done.
Thank you, Tim. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Is anyone here in opposition of this? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name for us and tell us where you live and address any concerns that you have.
Good evening. I am Lisa Anderson, and I live at 1230 Highway 138. My family and I own the property right across the road, and we've lived there since 1971. We are not opposed to a development, but we do have some concerns. We are not in favor of R1 zoning. We would like the zoning to remain A2. Surrounding properties are zoned A1 and A2. Nice developments in the area of Row Road, such as Lake Monroe, zoned A1. Those are 1.5+ acre lots. Weston Estates is zoned A1, A2, and those are 2 acre lots. I've spoken to Mr. Prather, and he shared with me his plans. He told me that the homes would have side entry garages, but according to his plans, those show front entry. He also stated the homes would be 3,000 square foot plus, and we've just been told 2,200 square foot. He did state that they would be farmhouse-style homes, and which would, when we discussed the exterior of the home and, would be siding, I would love to see a combination of siding, stone, and brick. He did share with me the homes would be 500,000 plus. And of course, we would love to see minimal clearing across the road because of the river there. That would really impact the environment. You start developing on the river and what happens downstream. And we have concerns with detention ponds and emptying into the Alcovey River and the impact of this many septic tanks. Also, we've seen major flooding in this area when there are heavy rains, more than what shows on the map. Are you familiar with the Alcovey River Bridge project? You can review that on the GDOT site, and according to those plans, that project will begin in 2025, hopefully to be completed in 2027. A temporary bridge will be placed probably to the south side. That's their preferred plan. It could go to the north side. Traffic will be detoured on the temporary bridge while the old bridge is torn down and the new bridge being built. If that takes place at the same time of this development, that is a lot of construction for that stretch of the road. Traffic. I understand you have no control over the traffic, but the decisions you make affect the traffic. It is a big deal, the traffic on Highway 138. I've done my research, and based on 2023 numbers, that stretch of the area of Highway 138 has 20,400 cars a day. The estimated average daily trips per residence in this development is 6, according to the developer's application. That would be adding 378 more vehicles entering and exiting daily. This probably doesn't include construction vehicles, school buses, trash trucks, etc. So we are asking that you deny the R1 OSC zoning and leave it at A2. We know this is doable because other developments in the area have done it. Also, we ask that the developer have the stipulations of side entry garages, 3,000 square foot homes, a combination of materials on the front of the house such as hardy plank, stone, or brick, and a minimal amount of trees removed from the property. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for this person? None? Anyone else to speak in opposition? Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm Jerry Rowe. I live at 1320 Highway 138. My sister and I, in a trust, own the property next to this property to the west, 12 some odd acres there. Been out there for a long time. My house was built in 77, I believe. As far as the property goes, this property next to it, and actually part of this property, has been in my family since the 1930s. So we've been out there a while. In talking about what's going on, there's some things that kind of caught my eye in this application that they've put forth. In the case information that you have, it states that the property is not in a watershed. You can stand anywhere on the property at the right time of year and see the water run into the river. That's in the case information that you have in your hand, I hope. So it obviously is in a watershed area. And what the plan is for 63 septic tanks, and everything's on a downhill slope to the river, right there. This water runs directly into the river. No way around that. That's what the direction it's got to go. Alcovey River is one of the cleanest rivers in the state. It's one of the very few that the Department of Natural Resources says you can eat as many fish, as much fish as you want to because it's clean. That's a rare thing in the state. Get the books and look at it. The regulation books. The question I have is, if we leave the zoning as A2, how many houses can you put in there? I don't really know. Do you guys have an answer for that? I'm thinking maybe 40, maybe not quite 40. That's still a lot of houses.
45.
45. That's still a lot of houses to go in there with drain into the river with everything that's going on. On the standard review questions, I've got a couple of questions about that. Question number 3 and 4 talks about the health, safety, and general welfare of everything that goes around it to the public and the gain to the public, the rest of the public in Walton County. Talking again about the traffic, this entrance will be directly off Highway 138. There's only one place you can put it. I went out and measured the sight distance to the top of the hill there, 573 feet. Sounds like a long way. But to turn left to go to Monroe, when you pull out, at 55 miles an hour from the time the car is in your sight, the time you will have to leave that entrance, cross a lane of traffic and turn left and get up to speed is 7 seconds. You can do the math, it's pretty easy online. That's not a lot of time to get out in Highway 138 and turn left. Imagine doing that in a trash truck or a school bus. We have 3 schools that empty into this road down through there. A lot of traffic. As she said, as of last year, 20,400 vehicles a day, with 10% of those being heavy vehicles, trucks with trailers. That's 2,040 trucks a day coming by that. And you're looking up the hill, past cars that are going, trying to pick a place to get out and turn left. So kind of a dangerous place, and we're making it worse. And you say, well, that's the state. State deals with that traffic, that's not us. Here's the thing. Every wreck that happens in Walton County, these fellows over here in Brown have to work. They don't work for the state. They have to go out to those wrecks and work them. Not only them, but the EMTs, the fire departments have to go to every wreck. So what that does is not only create more wrecks right there, but it slows them down from getting to the places they need to be. It's just a dangerous place to put an entrance. And we're talking about 378 vehicles a day, not counting Amazon and whoever else delivers, trash trucks, everything else. Be quite a bit more traffic than we're saying. And again, the state permits this, but the county has to deal with the problem. That's just the truth. We can trip around that any way you want to, but that's the truth. So that's something we need to consider. And as was said, you guys have a lot of influence on traffic. The decisions you make right here has caused some of the traffic we have, most of the traffic we have, and the problems that we have with it because of things like this. I listened to you talk to these other folks about these other zonings, and you're here willing to change the zoning on something when you don't have the full plans of what's to be. The plans that we're looking at for this one are not final plans. It's a concept, it's an idea. If you approve this and the zoning's set, they can do pretty much anything they want to with it. You approved it, but it has to be approved further by somebody else. And influences are made. So it's something to consider that we don't really know how this is going to end up. As far as the health, safety, and general welfare and the gain to the public, are those things really helping the health, safety, general welfare, or a gain to the public? I think not. Something to consider in the standard review questions that everybody has to fill out. We need to look at what they actually say and what it actually is true. The other thing, number 5 in the standard review questions, says the adjacent properties support this zoning. I don't know quite what that means. Nobody's asked me if I supported it. Does that zoning match up with what this zoning is? I'm not sure. But the thing is, that whole block from the Alcovey River to Row Road, from Highway 138 to 78, there's only 1 or 2 houses in there that are on an acre. That's it, 1 or 2 in that whole block. This is going to be nothing like that. This will open the door to something completely different. And we're talking about a huge piece of property. Not all owned by one person, but if you really take the number of houses in there, and y'all have the ability to do that, and figure out how many houses per acre are in that block, I think you'll be surprised. It's probably well over 50 acres per house. So we're looking at something entirely out of character for where this is. Yeah, it's on a major road, I get that, but it's not town. The things that were shown in this, the plans, the things it was compared to, are actually inside the city limits of Monroe, not in the county. The Wood Chase, I believe it was, subdivision, is inside the city limits. So realize what you're looking at before you make a decision here. The danger that you're putting on the road, the congestion it's going to cause. And you can say, well, it's just 300 more cars, 400 more cars. But it's where it is and how it is, looking up that hill. And there's no real way to change that without cutting that hill down. And it's a big, big hill. The other question I have is about the property that doesn't drain directly toward the river. There'll be, I think, 5 houses that will drain back toward us. There are no provisions made on that plan to handle that water. It'll come directly off from those houses and those yards down onto our property. Got a question about that too. What mitigation is there to fix that? What are we going to do about that? So that's pretty much what I see as problems. There's several more, but those are the big important ones that I see. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for this opponent? Anyone else to speak in opposition? Okay, I'll allow the applicant to come back up for rebuttal.
Sure. I just want to address a couple of things really quick, and then I'm going to hand it over to the people who really know what they're talking about. As far as water issues, that is always a concern. And as an attorney, I deal a lot with stormwater issues. And I do, to the extent that I can, want to put your mind at ease that we have a legal duty to, as was mentioned before by the prior applicant, we have a legal duty to control all the water on our site. And the site is engineered and will be engineered to make sure that the water quality of the Alcovey River is preserved, to make sure there isn't runoff to properties, no matter which way it is. If it's when the 5 lots that flow one way, with the other lots that flow the other way. We have a legal duty to control the stormwater, to control erosion, and to maintain water quality, and that's what we'll do. As far as, there's a statement that was said, I just want to touch on it just super briefly, about opening the door. Sometimes there is a concern when you're developing a piece of raw land, when you're adding more homes to a community, the concern about overburdening infrastructure, too much traffic, too many people in the schools, that the schools need to be expanded, or there's already a large burden on our public servants. Absolutely, I recognize all those concerns, but I want to think about this phrase in another way as well. Opening the door to new neighbors, opening the door to new members of the community, and that's what developments like this do. We heard very, very well articulated, thoughtful, and reasonable concerns about this property. We didn't hear from anyone in support who's going to be moving to this property, because they're not here yet. Their houses haven't been built yet. But they will be here sometime to become members of this community. And so that's one thing I want to keep in mind as well, the positives that flow from this kind of development. It's a high-quality development. We have strict rules and regulations we have to meet as we build it out. And again, I'm happy to share the microphone with those with me today who can talk with more detail about the specifics of the site plan or the engineering standards and things like that. But I did want to address some of the concerns that were brought up.
Hey guys, my name's Logan Moss. So I work with the home builder, Jacob Prather. I do all of his development and acquisition for him. I did just want to touch on a couple things that were mentioned. So as far as the home size, Miss Lisa, Jacob did speak to me, and I've talked to him a few times about y'all's conversation. So actually, I just texted him as soon as you said what you did say, and I said, hey, did you tell Miss Lisa that it was 3,000 minimum? And he said, no. I said it was up to 3,000. So it will be up to 3,000. We're going to build, $500,000 homes. So those all will be side entry, and I'm fine to make that a condition of this approval. Those renderings that he did share with you were just quick renderings. You really can't sell a $500,000 house with a front entry garage. It doesn't work. They will be a 24-inch water table in the front, stone, stucco, no vinyl or anything like that. I've grew up hunting on the Alcovy River, killed a lot of wood ducks on the Alcovy River. I will say I have not shot a big deer yet on the Alcovy River, but I plan to. But as far as keeping the river intact the way it is, I plan to keep on hunting this river. I'm a huge candidate of wildlife and stuff like that. So I do argue that the ponds that we put in place on this subdivision will not only make the river cleaner, they're going to go through what you call, you've got skimmers, you've got riprap. This is controlling a lot more sediment than what the raw property is carrying now. I mean, it's just straight dirt, red clay running into that river. So you're not going to see a decline in the clarity of this river by any means. I've done enough developments in my life to know that what we do does not affect that in any way. Of course, you have the developers out there that will, skip steps and make some ponds at times a little more red than they should be, but that's just skipping steps. But we're local to this area. We grew up here. Jacob grew up in Good Hope. I'm just right down the road. I hunt here all the time. This is home to me, so I plan on keeping it that way. As far as your traffic concern, I get it. It is 138. We're going to be in correspondence with DOT on all that. They will make us put a decel lane there that will, accommodate any traffic that is coming in or out of that subdivision. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we're going to be in accommodate with them and work on that. I did just want to touch on the A2 zoning. Ms. Sharner, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. So what we're asking for is the R1 OSC. At 63 lots on the 91 acres, that comes out to like 1.444 units per acre. The way the code reads currently now is at A2, it's 1.5, so it's not 2 units per acre, which was at the 45. So we're really just asking for 3 more lots at the A2, because A2 allows us to have 1.5 units per acre, which it is currently zoned. And as far as conserving that Alcovy River further, that's why we want to go to the OSC, because we don't want to start stacking lots up into that floodplain and stuff like that. And then you will potentially see some runoff to that Alcovy River. So OSC, all that does is allow us to centralize those lots and mitigate any flood issues, and gives us the ability, obviously, to utilize the property to its fullest potential. Brian, I don't know, do you have anything to say? Yeah, so I think there was, I'm not sure which individual mentioned the amenity area. So obviously, a lot of you guys that came up here to speak on behalf of this property in opposition, you're familiar with how pretty these woods are. Like I said, I've been hunting these woods for a while. This particular piece of property, as a matter of fact. You know how pretty these, creek bottoms are, these flood areas. There will be spaced off within this development for these pocket parks, so you can utilize that as a mini area, so to speak. And that's going to obviously be, throughout the entire subdivision, so that will be able to be utilized, and I think that's more beneficial than a pickleball court, which seems to be the go-to thing nowadays. So. Walking trails, yeah, stuff like that. So, yeah. So,
any further questions from us? I've got a couple here for you. You did address the side entry. Can you tell me what your plans are for external facade, especially frontal? And me saying that, we've actually adopted in our code some pretty good guidelines that I'm happy with, but I want to know what your plans are there.
Yeah, so we're going to obviously stick to the guidelines of Walton County. We build a lot of homes in Walton County. This particular product line that we plan to build in this area is actually going to be a step above what, we standardly build. It will be the 24-inch stone water table, hardy board siding, board and batten, side entry garage, so none of the vinyl. I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, it's a good-looking product. I actually live in one of our plans myself, so I think it should be accepted.
Right. Any further questions? Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Is anyone here to speak as a proponent for this application on behalf of the applicant? Okay. So I have just a few things that I want to hash over. I talked to a lady actually last month about this OSC, and I'm really hopefully conveying to you the thought process, because there is a two-way street in the OSC zoning. I myself am very fond of that zoning. The reason for that is because it sets aside green space. So rather than taking a piece of property, stripping the entire area, this sets aside areas that will not be touched during the development stages, and they will be left perpetual. So they're designated as a conservation area, a CSO conservation. So what it does allow on the other side, then if you have 91 acres and you're going to get X number of lots, then it allows you to put that in a smaller area. So it does, as far as density, it does increase the density, quote unquote, but it doesn't outpace density over what's allowable. And it's just stated, in the earlier, I think we were like 1.5 on the earlier application under CSO, and that's consistent with the current zoning there with the 1.5 ratio. If you did that, the numbers come out pretty equivalent. The problem is obviously in order to build 60 homes on that 91 acres, then you would have to start impeding some of those areas that are more proximity to the creeks, the river, as close as you possibly could. Now, those are protected state waters, so you can only get so close to begin with, but you would have to start impeding that, plus potentially proximity to adjoining landowners where you may have green space protection. You would lose that. The houses would be closer to those areas, but it wouldn't alter the number of homes there. It would just alter the way that they're laid out, and it would take away what could potentially be left for green space. So I hope for anyone who doesn't understand that that's a kind of brief synopsis of why this zoning is requested. And to me, if I go by somewhere where they just go in and strip all the trees out, build homes, as opposed to those that have left some green space, and even though bump the density up on the interior, it's still, as long as the numbers are not, out of line, I like the trees. I like the protection for the waterways. So there were some other concerns I know that you guys had. Anything regarding water is covered really at the state level, and even more so federal level. So they have to follow that with engineering and then approval by the county. And the traffic, when I go back to where I call home, which is just in Gwinnett, just on Harbins Road, which if any of y'all familiar with that, the house I grew up in was just tore down right next to that new Publix right there. I mean, everything it's changing, but it's been changing since the day I would grace this planet, and I predict it's going to continue to change, and children are being born every single day, and as they become adults, they have to have somewhere to live. Our population is continuing to grow every day. So the best you can do is, I see it, is to try to manage in the best way possible, which is tough at times. So with that, I am going to make a motion for approval with the following conditions. The minimum single-family, single-story of 2,200 square foot, two-story, minimum 2,500 square foot. All homes will have side entry garages. The number of lots will be reduced from 63 to 60. That would be consistent with the 1.5 that would be equivalent to the A zoning. And with that, that is my motion and conditions.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor say aye and raise your right hand.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye and raise your right hand.
Aye.
So 4-2, and this will go to the Board of Commissioners next month. Okay? With that, well, the amendments are got bumped, correct? Amendments got bumped, so they're not on our agenda tonight. Is there any public comment? I would like to say one thing. I meant to say this at the beginning of the meeting, talking about the population and growth and all that, and somebody said this week, I think it's, and if I'm off, I'm off, okay? Is it 34 million people in the United States? Is that where we're at?
Oh, 340.
340.
Yeah.
So 500 people, 500 and some odd people just went to France to compete in the U.S. Olympics out of 340 million. My cousin was one of them. He shot in the Olympics this week on the shotgun team. He's also part of the U.S. Army marksmanship team, shooting trap. So I wanted to recognize him. Will Hennon, what a great honor to be able to go to the U.S. Olympic. It's certainly for the few. I mean, it's amazing. So just wanted to mention that. And with that, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye and raise your right hand.